Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate you guys being patient. Tonight, we are talking about the DNA of divorce. Can everyone hear us pretty good? Are we clear? Okay, good. Hopefully everything is good. So we have Miss Debbie Barnett kind of sharing her story, sharing, her experiences and just talking a little bit about divorce and, her journey. And so Debbie, I appreciate you coming on and having this discussion. We know that topics like this can be um, tough. And so we really appreciate you joining the platform and just having this conversation with us. And we know that there's healing through communication and conversation. And
Right.
we hope that someone can heal from your story. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
So my journey was a long journey. It was a 10-year journey. I was only married for, let's say, about 4.5 years, but I went through a few stages when it came to divorce. So the few stages I want to talk about, it's 5 stages. So the first stage I want to talk about when it comes to divorce, I stayed in a denial stage. And the denial stage for me, it was long before he actually filed for divorce. So, we kind of knew that it was coming to an end, but, we both were in denial. Who wants to go through a divorce? For me, it was embarrassing. For me, it was my pride. I didn't want anybody to know because it was my first marriage, but it wasn't his first marriage. So the first stage I went through, it was denial. I don't know if anybody on the line can, relate to the denial stage of a relationship or marriage or divorce, when you're in denial. So for me, because of denial, I stayed a little too long. So the second stage, I believe to be, that was my angry stage. That second stage, after I came out of like denial, I was still in a denial a little bit, but I was really angry because, growing up as a girl in church, we were told when you get married, it's forever,
Right.
and I felt like I have all these things to offer. I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm loving, I love God, I cook, I clean, I take care of the kids. When I was married, we didn't have any kids together, but we came together with children. I'm taking care of your kids, So I was in the angry stage because I'm like, I gave out like 90% and I felt like he gave out 10. And it usually doesn't start that way. And no shade towards him, this was just my journey. But during the angry stage of going through a divorce, I was angry because I'm like, how dare he divorce me? you know So I kind of was like really, really, really upset. But being in that angry stage, it led me to therapy. And a lot of times when we're in church, we don't want to talk about therapy. We be like,
Right.
Jesus can fix everything. He'll fix it all. Jesus will, get me out of this. And that's all I need. But, to me, God, he gives us therapists. He gives us counselors. He gives us all of these people to lead us in the direction we should go. So for me, in the angry stage, when picking a therapist, I went to a lady at first, but my first session, I was like, this lady is not God led. She's agreeing with everything I say. And I just knew that wasn't right. So I prayed to God and I said, Lord, lead me to who you want me to go to. So I went to Military One Source and they gave me a whole list of people. So I just prayed. I said, God, you're going to lead me. So the first number I called, it took her so long to call me back. So I said, well, I got to get with somebody else. So I called somebody else. I had a appointment with someone else, but she actually called me back and I wanted her to be African American. I just felt like for me that she could relate to me. So my first day of therapy, I was so angry. I was in denial because during this process, we wasn't divorced yet. We were just kind of going through, and he was kind of like weighing it out, like long, you know, it's kind of like a threat thing. So my first day of therapy, I'm walking in, I'm like, this lady is old. I was like, man, I don't want to tell her, you know, what I'm going through. I don't want her to judge me. So I was like, I don't want this lady to judge me. But she just smiled, and I smiled back at her. So our first session, I'm like, yeah, I'm about to tell him everything he done. I'm angry. I'm in denial. I'm like, this lady about to fix it. And, you know, oh no. So my angry stage, she dealt with me like, you know, why I would make these choices. But what she did was she spent time building me up as a woman. She was like, you lack nothing, you know. She was like, you are a sun ray. When you enter a room, you just light up the room with your smile. She couldn't believe I was still smiling through the divorce. But I was like, I mean, what else can I do?
Yeah.
So my first stage was denial. For people that's just coming back on, we're talking about the stages of divorce. My first stage was denial, and I told everybody that I stayed too long. My second stage is that I was angry. So I sought out for help with a therapist, and I love her. She was the best for me. She saw me for 3 years. Two and a half of the years, she saw me for free. It wasn't an hour session. She saw me for at least 3 hours. We were in there talking and crying and whatever, you know. So my third stage was the bargaining stage. So once I got through the angry part, you know, going through court and seeing who I'm about to divorce and he's seeing me, it's kind of now like a bargaining tool because he's kind of like, well, oh, she's looking good now, you
Right.
know. You know, it was kind of, so I was like, well, it would be nice to stay.
Right.
Even though we didn't have children together, he raised my daughter from a baby.
Yeah.
So I was like, I thought about finances. I thought about everything that I could possibly think about to why I needed to stay in this marriage. Even though I know like this person does not want me. Anybody that have the courage enough to go file on you. Mm-mm. So I stayed in the bargaining stage, you know, and I thought about all those things why we could bargain on why we should stay. You know, I even told myself, well, I want to have sex, but I don't want to do it with somebody that's not my husband. But to me, as I did it, it felt as though I was sinning still because for me, it was just, we were in a contract,
Yeah.
but there wasn't like a real connection, you know, with us. So my last stage, and I'm calling it the last stage, but I kind of went through this the entire time because it was a roller coaster. It was depression for me.
Yeah.
I was depressed. So when we first were going through the divorce, I dropped 25 pounds. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was doing everything, you know, just to try to stay on top and put on the front of a smile.
Yeah.
And so that's what I went to, and I went back to the bargaining stage. I even went back, y'all. I went back about 5 times. All my friends know I went back 5 times. But as I went through the depression, I saw that, you know, man, I got children, so
Right.
I'm depressed. Even though I can front a smile, you can front a smile in front of people, but I couldn't front a smile in front of the children. And when your children start talking back to you, then you know there's a problem. So I guess that was the fourth stage, depression. My last stage was acceptance. So finally, I said to myself, I said, hey, I've had enough. Now we're on like year, probably like 6 of being together, going through a divorce, trying to weigh out if we're going to stay together. So I said, I have to accept the fact that I got married. It did not work. It's time to move forward from this. One thing I dealt with, I didn't want God to not be pleased with me. I said, you know, I thought that because I was going through a divorce that God was angry with me, you know, so once I went through therapy, you know, and my relationship got really, really solid with God, God reminded me like, you my child. I'm not upset. I'm not going to like make you stay into something that's already killing you, because through it, I even got sick. It started attacking my health. So I got through the acceptance stage, and I just accepted like, I can do better. And I'm not saying I could do better without a man, because I believe that a husband is necessary.
Yeah.
It is necessary for people that desire to be married. But so I got through the acceptance stage of saying, okay, I'm not gonna be embarrassed. People gonna know. But the embarrassing part was when you get a divorce, people are bold enough to ask you what happened.
Right.
They were asking me like, what happened? And so even after the divorce, we stayed in contact. It was almost like we were still married because of my pride. My pride allowed me to stay connected to him because, I really didn't want people to know, even though my select few people knew exactly what happened in my marriage. It was just like, well, if I tell these certain people this, then I can skip them talking about me. So I stayed connected with him. But one thing I've learned, it's been a year for me, because I'm just now, it's been 10 years now. So now my 10th year, I said, okay, I have to disconnect from this person because I'm still connected even without the contract of the marriage. Even without saying we're married, he would sometimes be like my wife, or we would still act like we were married in a way. So I really had to cut it loose so that I could start moving forward with this process. And so that was kind of like the stages of marriage. So I really now want to talk about life after divorce.
Okay.
Okay, so my life after divorce, all during, the divorce, I kind of read Psalms 23. And I would say it and I would speak it over my life and just speak it and speak it and speak it until it got in my spirit. So, life after the divorce, I really sought out for like support, kind of with Alicia, my friends. I got solid friends, you know, kind of like they'll tell you the truth when you don't want to hear it. When it comes to relationship, they will tell you the truth. I get mad at them. I'm like, I ain't talking to them no more. But I mean, it be the truth, like
Right.
my cousin Karis, Alicia, we got Tia, um, Tiffany, Trudy, Crystal, all of my friends who have just been there, their support. But I just sought out for support and I kept them around. So my life really started after I kind of like redefined myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have that talk with myself and say,
Yep.
Debbie, who are you after marriage? Yeah, you were with him, but the whole time you all kind of wasn't, So I said, let me redefine myself. So
Mm-hmm.
what I did was I kept praying and I said, God, what is it that you want from me? So God, like, he told me, he was like, I want what I already have for you. What I have for you, it didn't change. You just went on a different path for a while, but it didn't change. So I said, okay, I love to sing. So I stepped out. It was so fearful to like get out there and sing with other people, meet new people, where they took me on a journey of touring and, you know, um, just meeting people beyond my wildest dreams
Yeah.
and like really gaining a sisterhood with my friends and
Mm-hmm.
my family and my cousins. And so I just redefined myself as a woman, as a Christian, as a mother,
Yeah.
as a business owner.
Yeah.
And I tapped into my business more because even though I was at work, something had to be lacking. I couldn't see it at the time. So I really just started, redefining myself and say, what do I want out of life? What do I want to do? What are my goals? So I just tapped in there and that's what I did. And I looked at it as a do-over. I said, oh God, you gave me a do-over. Because I was telling somebody today, I said, most times when you get married, some people can enter into a really, really bad marriage. And then they feel stuck because they're like, I pledged my life before God. I told God that I would be married to death do us part and all of these things. But I felt as though like I got a do-over from abuse, from being cheated on, all things that, no woman or no man, because men go through it too. So I'm not leaving out the men. They go through the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got a do-over at life. I got a chance at, the husband that is for me, him finding me, and praying for me and coming in my life. So, what else? Let me see. I know I've been talking a lot, but
No, this is good. This is good information. And just to piggyback on what you said, I remember when that transformation process started because you started to look different.
yeah,
And your attitude shifted.
Yeah.
You were, your words started to be happier,
Yeah.
and literally, I think that speaks volume because you said, like, Lord, what is it that you have for me?
Yeah.
And I think you were able to listen and go that direction and tap into your purpose in every area of your life, spiritually, as a mother, as a business owner. Even your business felt different. Even
Yeah.
though you're doing the same thing, it felt different
Yeah.
when you made that shift, that transformation.
Right. And it also felt like my own, it felt like my own. I felt independent. Like this year has been a total transformation for me, or a transition for me, because I was used to still depending on my ex-husband. Like when things needed to be fixed around the house, when my car needed to be fixed, when the kids needed something, I was still depending on him to do things, even though I told myself I don't need that, because I have a dad who will do it, but my dad's older, so I was still dependent on him. And I looked back over the last probably year, and I said, "Oh my God, this year I've been doing things on my own." When things are hard, I had to figure it out, which I did it before.
Right.
I did it before, but that was back to the bargaining tool. Well, I can still keep hold to this,
Right.
in a way. Um, um, yeah.
That's good. That's good. So let me ask you this. What was that process like for you to transition from being broken to being healed? What was that process like, making that transition?
Oh, so from being broken to healed, that was really hard, because one thing for me is that I like to put my children first. So when I kind of look, even though, I mean, to me, putting them first is putting me first. I looked at them and I was like, they shouldn't have to see mama broken or see mama crying over something that it only takes a choice for me to be out of.
Right.
You know, so me moving out of that, for me, it looked like strength. For me, it was strength. It made me feel like an overcomer, and it just made me think of things differently. I'm like, my story can help other people out of a situation like this, because there's people that's still married that are going through this. So I looked at myself as a role model for people that may not have the courage to do it, because honestly, most people didn't even know I went through an abusive marriage. Most people didn't even know that I went through that. I went through it mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I never really talked about it publicly because I was still connected. I I feel like I don't like to hurt people's feelings or put them out there as a bad person, which I'm still not.
Yeah.
I'm still not, because anybody can heal, anybody can change. That was just the situation with me. But I just felt like someone can look at my life and just say, I can get out of that too, or I can go get help. Because everybody's story is not to get out of a marriage. They may just need to go through counseling or go to a therapist individually and together. So for me, it just looked like just pieces being put back together, like a puzzle that's on a table, and then it was just scattered, because I felt like my life was scattered for a very long time. It was like I was in the valley on a Candyland game, trying to find my way, getting off, coming back on. But now I feel like the puzzles are finally put back together. You know, like I want to be married, but my most desire is God. Having that true relationship with Him.
Yeah.
And He's showing me more about myself. One thing I got to know is who Debbie was.
Mm.
Oh, and for people that, well, I can say this. So since I think July, I could be transparent on here. Since I think July 17th, I told myself, Lord, I know you want more of me. I changed the way I was dressing. And most people don't think that you have to do that. But for me, it was a process for me. The way I was dressing, the way I was talking, I stopped fornicating. And I said, God, this is going to be me and you. I'm tired of being in and out of relationships. And my relationships wasn't like, I meet a guy, then we're done. These were like years of
Right.
relationships.
Right.
But it was like, because I was broken, I didn't think people could see it, but it was kind of like a rebound thing.
Right.
So I said, Lord, I got to be single for a while and I got to get an intimate relationship with you. And once I did that, doors started opening for me because I stand on it. If you are willing and you are if you are willing and obedient, you'll eat the good of the land. And I was like, okay, God, you want me to be willing and you want me to be obedient to what you're telling me to do. I can do this. I can do this. And most people ask, are you bitter? I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all.
Yeah.
But I know what has to be done for God to elevate me to the next level.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's good. That's good. So, now looking back over everything that happened, would you have done something different? Like, do you have any regrets, or what's kind of your perspective on things now?
Okay, so kind of back and forth with that. Sometimes I tell myself, because depression can hit us at any time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how good we feel like we are in our word. Depression can hit us at any time. So sometimes when it hit me, sometimes I'm like, I shouldn't have never entered into this. I knew better. But I almost wouldn't change anything because it made me stronger. It made me wiser. Now I could tell young girls younger than me, like, hey, you don't even have to enter it because it starts when they're a child. We're children thinking about marriage.
Yeah.
Think of women, we're children.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait till I get married.
Right.
Yeah, we want to be married, but there's more to life than just that. And marriage is bigger than just that small piece. Marriage is more than just saying I love someone. Marriage is a whole
Right.
lot of stuff comprised in one.
Right.
And we're bringing two sides. We're bringing the male side and the woman side
Yeah.
of our crazy dysfunctional lives
Yeah.
together and trying to build a marriage every day. So I wouldn't change it. Now, I would change some of my reactions. I would change that maybe that I stayed too long because it started affecting my health. But sometimes because of my stubbornness, I didn't want nobody to know I was going through a divorce. I didn't want nobody to know that I was abused. I didn't want nobody to know I was cheated on. I didn't want anyone to know that because, it was of my own pride, and so um, I would change that in a way. But I'm here, I'm standing, I'm healthy, stress free.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Hallelujah. Yes.
That's good. Do we have any questions about, divorce and about Debbie's story? Please feel free to add to the comment section. Bree said the things you've learned from all of that, you're able to share. Amen, Bree. Yes,
Amen.
good. Um, you know, when do you feel like you were able to embrace this new version of you?
I started embracing the new version of me. It had to be a year and a half ago
Okay.
because I still had some insecurities there. I had insecurities there. I didn't think I was pretty enough, or I didn't think I was worthy enough, or so about a year and a half ago, I just said, I got sick of myself. I got sick of myself, and I had to say, self, come on now.
Yeah.
So it was around that time where I just said, I got to make a change.
Yeah.
I'm not ugly. I'm beautiful. Can't nobody define that for me. If God made me in his image and I'm his child, I'm beautiful. Okay. And it's not, to me, it's not about looks. Like we could look at you could be the prettiest thing walking. You could be the finest man walking, but that's not going to change somebody from cheating on you. That's not going to change someone from leaving you. You could be, I don't know you could be the prettiest person you think, but that's not going to stop somebody from leaving you.
Right.
So I don't know if I answered that. I got off a
No,
little
you
bit.
did. So
Okay.
tell me again, how long was that process? How many years did it take you to make that transformation?
From the time it took 10 years.
Mm.
It took 10 years. You know, I was divorced and still in it. I
Mm.
thought I was out of it. Oh, I'm not married anymore, so I'm out of it. But it's all in it's what we think. It's
Yeah,
what we capture in our mind about a thing.
yeah.
So I had to start telling myself, what does God think about that thing? And so it took about 10 years. I say nine, wait, listen, about 8.5, because let me not count this year and a half of restoration, but about 8.5 years.
Okay.
It took me about 8.5 years of being in that horrible pit. I felt like I was in a pit that I couldn't get out of.
Mm.
So about 8.5 years.
So, what advice would you give someone? Well, first, let's do it two parts. What
Okay.
advice would you give to a married woman who may be experiencing some of the things you experienced in your marriage? What would you say to her?
I would say to a married woman that is experiencing what I went through. So if you are in a physically abusive situation, I even mentally and emotionally, because sometimes those things they're just as bad. Not could be, they're just as bad. But physically, where someone's harming you, or you're actually the abuser, seek out help. You got to seek out help. And I would tell that woman, get you a prayer life. Get you a prayer life and tap into God, because He will never leave you nor forsake you. He will not leave you alone. You may feel like you're alone, but He won't. And He will direct your footsteps. He will order your steps in a way to where people start aligning up to help you in that pit.
Yeah,
Um, I can never tell a married woman what to do in her marriage.
right,
I just won't do that, because we could tell somebody what or what not to do
right.
all day long, but we know you're going to do what you want to do. And some marriages are restored even after
Absolutely.
those things. So I
Absolutely.
would never tell someone to leave. So it's best for you. But I urge you, if you are going through anything abusive, I urge you to seek out help. Seek out help. If you have to do it privately at first, if you are wanting to leave, be wise about it. Sometimes, as people, we can start that argument. We can tell that man or woman, whoever the abuser is, I'm leaving. I'm leaving you. Watch me leave. But you got to know who you're dealing with. You got to know if you're dealing with a psychotic person. If you're dealing with somebody that's psychotic, you better be wise, because it could be your cooling board day. You don't want your life to end, or your children's life to end, or them to end their life over something that you could have used wisdom
Yeah,
for. So I tell you to seek help. Seek help.
yeah.
So Tia, I just saw something that she wrote. Don't do it in isolation. My stuff was in isolation. I didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
I had cousins, Alicia, Karis. Karis gonna ride the bat for me, honey. She would fight muscle
She
bound
was
man for
ready,
me. She would, you know what I'm saying?
locked and
Like,
loaded.
locked and loaded. I'm telling you. And so I had family that I never even told.
Hmm.
I never told. And then I didn't realize that it was demonic. And I stayed as long as I did, because I knew it was like a demonic situation.
Yeah,
And I felt like if I'm praying and casting out things, casting out those devils or whatever that was in him, them fallen angels, you know, if I was doing that, then and things would be okay. But I'm like, I had to know my own strength, because I was getting abused, so, but I just say use wisdom in it, and be smart about it, but don't do it in isolation, and seek out help.
yeah,
So what I would say for the newly divorced um, woman, I would say, continue to seek God. I would tell her to get a support team around you. Get people that you trust, people that you could talk to, people that will lift you up. One, spiritually, in Christ, give you sound advice. Get you a wiser woman around you that's either married, or maybe who have been through the same thing, that's not bitter, to just pour wisdom back into you, because you will get through it, and it's going to take time. So
yeah,
just know, like, even though it feels as though, you know, maybe he's gone on about his life, or maybe she's gone on about her life, they're going to look happy to you. It's going to look like they got it made. They'll even move on. They'll even move on to probably different partners. And you just got to block out the negativity. You got to block it out and then wish them well on your way. But I tell the newly divorced woman, keep your head up, be strong, be courageous, have their support team. Like I said once before, continue to seek God. Um, get an active prayer life. If you go to church, if they have, a support group for that, join it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm busy, but I'm not busy to the point where I'm trying to drown out what I'm dealing with. And make sure you deal with the divorce.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll cover it up. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Deal with it. It's been 10 years of a relationship for me. I've been divorced from him for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
I've been, kind of separated from him for over 2 years. But this year was the year I dealt with it.
Yeah.
I dealt with the divorce. I dealt with the hurt, the abuse that I've have went through, and I've cried out to God. I've been able to cry out to God, and I'm healing. I'm still healing. I think it's always going to be a process. Even when I get married, there may be insecurities that comes up from my previous marriage. But I know, like, a lot of things, it didn't start when we got married. A lot of things we carry into the marriage. We get married to cover up a lot of things
Right.
about ourselves and a lot of insecurities. So those are things that we just gonna have to deal with. And what I
Right.
did was I dealt with my nasty self. I said, Debbie, like, we got to get to the bottom of this. We got to get to the root, the core of why you would even deal with that and pick that.
Mm.
And once I did that, my healing started taking place. And when I tell you, I feel better than I ever could imagine. Like, I had a young girl ask me during the beginning of the pandemic. She said, "Are you dating anyone?" I said, "Oh, I'm single." I said, "I decided to just be single for a while, not to date anyone. If they come my way, I'd be like, you're gonna have to wait, but this is
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do." And she was like, "How can you do that? How can you do that and be alone?" I said, "I'm not alone." I said, "This
Mm.
is the first time ever in my life that I felt free. I felt loved. I felt strong. I so many things about me that I have
Yeah.
discovered while taking that break to be alone. Well,
Yeah.
not alone, because I don't feel like I'm alone. When I
Yeah.
tell you, I be walking around, I be telling Trudy, Crystal, Kwame them, I said, I feel like I'm in love. They be like,
Yeah.
girl, you're not even with anybody. I
Yeah.
said, child, I'm in love with myself. And and it's not an arrogance thing. It's like, for once, I was able to spend time with myself because I've been in and out of relationships since I was younger.
Yeah.
And it wasn't short relationships. It was long years of my life with these
Yeah.
people. And so for once I felt like I was in love. I don't just take anything and I don't take things for
Right.
granted. So I just tell the person that it has gone through a divorce, take that time out to get to know yourself and find that love that God wants you to have. I tell
Mm.
myself God is love, so I'm
Yeah.
love. And
And
find
I
out
think,
truth. Okay.
yeah, I think, for you, you started to love yourself the way God loves you,
Yes.
and I think that is a game changer. Because a
Yes.
lot of times we don't value ourselves how God values us,
Yes.
and it's a disrespect to Him
Yes.
because we are His creation.
Yes.
So I think for you that was the game changer. I love it.
Yes. One more thing, Alicia. One more thing, and then I have a different outlook on marriage and what love is. A lot of times we've like so for instance, a lot of times we feel like if we have kissed a person or if we have had premarital sex with a person, that equates to love.
Hmm.
Those emotions and feelings, that's not love. Because when you get into a marriage, what if that person doesn't want to have sexual relationship with you? I was in a marriage where he didn't want to touch me, so it's like, what happens then? That's
Yeah.
not love. You got to make sure that there are core values. I stand on God's promises. What God says is love, that's love for me. When I get married again and enter into marriage, that's going to be love for me. Because that woman cooks and cleans, that ain't love. That's something she chooses to do. Or
Right.
because that man goes out and work and provides, he chooses to do that.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to know what God's word says about love. and you got to stand on that. Love is kind, it's patient. If that person is not patient and kind with you, he ain't gonna be patient and kind with you when you get into a marriage.
Yeah.
If that person is self-seeking before you get married, he's probably or she's probably going to be self-seeking when you get married.
Yeah.
You have to look at it. You have to look at it. We feel like people are our soulmates. No. What God say about love? That's all I'm standing on. And
Right.
so, that's my spill on that. But we got to get back to loving ourselves. You got to tell yourself you're beautiful after a divorce because we feel nasty and ugly. I thought I was fat. Listen, I'm bigger than what I was then. But because I was told I was fat, I thought I was fat. We
Yeah.
cannot go by what people say about us. What
Right.
people say bad and negative to you, that's the reflection of how they feel about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I just tell the woman or the man who has gone through divorce or who is going through a divorce or who is considering divorce, which I'm not a big advocate about it, but
Right.
if that's your path, then hey, that's your path. It was mine. I just say get back to loving yourself and get back to standing on what God says about you. His promises is yes. And it is and it's if God says yes about it, it's gonna be so.
Yeah.
So that's my spill on that. I didn't went off.
Well, Debbie, I mean, I love your story. I appreciate you sharing and being transparent. This is so good. I love the information and the tidbits that you gave. Do we have any questions from anyone before we end this? Do we have any questions, comments? Gotta like this is good. This is good. Bree says she took a divorce class and that was the best thing for me. So I think that's good. Like really tapping into those resources
Okay.
uh, that are there. So that's really good.
That's wonderful.
Move on and wish them well. Amen, Angie. Wish them
Amen.
well. Bye.
I
Yes,
mean,
it's
but the
good.
truth about it is, let me tell you, I loved my husband, okay?
Yeah,
My
yeah,
ex-husband. I loved him. I
yeah.
didn't want nothing good, not that I didn't want nothing good to come to him. I didn't want him to be with nobody else. I didn't want to see
Right.
him be happy. But when I started loving myself, I was like, God, I ended up praying for him. And I developed a prayer life for him and I said, hey, I want him to experience joy and happiness and peace for once in his life. I
Hmm.
want him to experience a good marriage. Why not?
Right.
So like I tried, but I mean now it's the wish well. It's the
Yeah,
wish well.
yeah.
So I get it.
Awesome. Tia said, proud of you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
sis.
transparency
Hey
and sharing
Vernell.
your testimony. Thank you, Debbie from Vernell. Hey, Vernell, what's up?
Hey, long time.
Right. So, anyways, we appreciate you coming on. This has been good. Um, we're encouraging everyone to stay tuned because this month we have a lot of people sharing their journey on divorce. So, this is really an important topic that I wanted to bring on this platform, and I really appreciate you starting this out and sharing your story. So, I'm just encouraging everybody to stay tuned, follow, like, share. And if you have any questions
There's
for
a new one.
Debbie,
There was a new
please
one.
feel free to reach out to her.
Someone
Okay,
said,
here's one. Go ahead, Debbie.
oh wait, it says, how can a friend, okay, I lost it. Can you read it?
Yeah, how can a friend best support someone going through this process?
Okay, so you got to be careful about friends because one thing with friends, if they're not operating if they're not operating in wisdom, my friends, we ride out for each other. Okay, they're gonna make sure I'm good first before they give me the lowdown on me. So
Yeah,
my friends, you just got to be careful about friends. I don't really advise when you're going through a divorce like to seek out at first maybe with them. I say find a Christian counselor if you are of the Christian faith. Find you a Christian counselor that is experienced with this. Someone that may not know you that can get down to the core of the issue. Then, if you want to bring your friends along, because me and my girls, we have powwows. So, like, my friends that I hang with, we have powwows, but I have, like, cousins and, like, Alicia, who's interviewing me now, Alicia, Tia, Karis, and Tiffany. We'll get together and have a powwow, but it's the truth moment.
yeah,
We say stuff that we may not want to hear, but it helps.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you,
And I think, you know, as a therapist, I think one thing for me is, which I do with you guys, as well, is first thing, the hierarchy of needs. Are you safe? Are you healthy?
Yeah.
Are you good? You got food? Do you need to come over? Like making sure those needs, those basic needs are met. So as a friend, I'm checking in. You good? Because before we even address what's going on, I need to make sure you are safe.
Yeah.
You got food, and then once we know you good in that area, okay, let's talk. Let's get into the nitty gritty. And so I think for me, that's how I would support a friend, making sure first that they're good, that they're feeling okay. And then, if you have that close connection with them, like talking to them and encouraging them and just helping them process that journey.
Yeah. And one thing I know I experienced, because I went through a depression phase. When I was first going through my divorce, I would not talk. I lost weight. I would not talk. I didn't want to talk about it to anyone. So I remember going over to a friend's house for a whole week and I didn't speak. I just, I was quiet. I didn't want to hear what other people had to say, because when you're first going through the denial stage,
Yeah.
we have a take up spirit. So if our friends do say something about whoever we're dealing with, sometimes we'll get on the bandwagon of like, you don't know him and you
Yeah.
can't say this, so it's all in wisdom, but like Alicia and them, they were all there for me. I could come to their house anytime, talk, sit. If I don't want to talk about it, she never forced me to talk about this. Never. She never made me talk about it, and I always felt like it was a safe place for me. So, and that's what all my friends, they don't force it. They're just there and they're loving.
Right.
Be a listening ear.
Yeah.
Make sure they're listening, but okay.
And then, another thing that you can do, because you have to use discernment as to what you can say, what you can't. And so even after listening, even if you don't know the words, like you said, helping them with resources and
Yeah.
say, hey, I kind of heard you was going through this. Maybe this is a resource that could help. Whether it's a financial resource, a counseling resource, a medical resource, regardless of what the situation is.
Yeah.
Just trying to find your lane and figure out how you can be that supportive friend, I think is best.
Yeah. That's good.
So hopefully that answers the question. Thanks for helping the people, friend. Hey,
Oh,
definitely our
you're welcome,
therapist, our
friend.
friendipist.
She is.
He is. Grow up.
Friendipist.
Okay. She's special. Oh, Lord. But yeah, thank you for joining, Debbie. We appreciate this conversation. Do we have any other questions? This is good. I loved it. This is a great way to kick off this conversation.
Hey girl, hey, I'm calling because I can't say what I want without exposing my crazy. You might want to call Alicia. That's the therapist. You better call Tyrone. No,
Okay.
I'm here for you. I'm here for you. If you gotta come
Yeah,
over here and sit, I'm here.
that's
'Cause,
good.
yep.
All right. Well, then that concludes our conversation. If anyone, want to reach out, please feel free to reach out to us, to Debbie. Any way we can help you on this journey, that's what we are here for. So thank you for joining the conversation, Debbie. I love you.
I love you too.
And until next time.